Hello.
Hi, friends.
How are you?
Hope everything's well. Hope
Double,
you're having a good week.
double check to make sure we were recording.
I wasn't going to ask. I thought about it, but I wasn't going to ask.
It even says up here in the corner recording. I don't know how I didn't see it. But
I'm not going to lie to tell you, I didn't even listen to that episode. Because normally I'll listen every week.
yeah.
I didn't even listen to that one because I'm still, residually pissed. Not pissed, but
Irritated.
yeah.
Yeah. I even said, I was like, I feel like we rushed through it because we had already heard that material.
Oh, I totally spaced the whole time you were doing your portion of it.
It's okay. Well, this week we are recording and we are talking about Grimm's Fairytales and the Brothers Grimm. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we get started?
Well, you're talking about the Brothers Grimm and Grimm's story.
I'm talking about the Brothers Grimm.
So I'm just going to be real with you. Procrastination at its finest. I was going to get this one done this week. I honestly was waiting on Brittany to send me the format that she was going to use for this episode.
It took me forever.
I didn't get it until yesterday, day before.
Yeah.
And so I did not have time to do it. And so I'm going to hit you guys with a little bit of comedic relief, like I'm good at.
Yeah, in between stories.
These stories it's an NSFW situation, guys.
I don't know what they are, so I'll be just as surprised as you will.
They're pretty funny. Some of them, I'll wait. Never mind.
Me and Amara are holding hands.
Oh, so cute. Willow's down here licking herself.
She's always doing something. Anyway, are we ready?
Hit it.
All right. So, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm were born and raised in Hanau in the Land Graviot, I think is how you say that, of the Hesse Castle within the Holy Roman Empire, which is known as Germany today. Germany. Jacob was born on January 4th, 1785, and Wilhelm was born on February 24th, 1786, to parents Philip Wilhelm Grimm and Dorothea Grimm. The two were the eldest of 9 children. The family moved to the countryside in 1796, where they had lots of open fields to run in, and they received a strict Lutheran education from private tutors, but would later attend local schools because unfortunately their father passed away from pneumonia that's the same year they moved there. The family had to sell their home and lost all of their staff. Dorothea ended up having to rely on her own father and sister for financial support, and Jacob, who was only 11 at the time, had to take charge of the family and assume the head of household role. 2 years later, the two brothers left their family to attend school that was primarily focused on music and foreign language. While in school, the two brothers became really close, and upon graduation, they both attended the University of Marburg, where they studied law just like their father. Wilhelm also focused on medieval German folklore while he was at the university. Jacob, he also received several... Did I change that? I think that's supposed to be Wilhelm. I'll roll with it. Jacob also received several honorary doctorates from the University of Marburg, Berlin University, and Breslau University. After attending Marburg together, the two brothers went their separate ways for some time. Jacob would work in many positions that included Secretariat of the War Office, librarian for King Jerome Bonaparte's private library, and as the chair of archaeology and librarianship at the University of Göttingen in Hanover. Wilhelm began working at the Castle Library prior to the publication of the first volume of Kinder und Hausmärchen. I don't know. I'm German, but I don't know how to speak it.
You're not that German.
No, I'm not that German. But this was published in 1812. Later, Jacob would work at the library as well, and he and Wilhelm would write the book German Legends together. I went ahead and put the English translation there. Both brothers were active speakers on a wide variety of subjects, including religion, politics, philosophy, linguistics, literature, and much more. Jacob married a woman named Dorothea Wilde, and I believe they never had any children. I couldn't find that they had any children. He died on September 20th, 1863. Wilhelm married Dorchen Wilde, and the two had 3 children together. Wilhelm died on December 16th, 1859. I don't know if I mention it later, but Jacob really had a hard time after Wilhelm died. He just was not, he had kind of given up on life after that. But what about the fairy tales? There is the common misconception that the brothers wrote all of these tales themselves, but in fact, they did not. These stories were around for many, many years, hundreds of years before the brothers were even born. The tales were passed down from generation to generation from about the mid 1780s. These stories were told by women who were looking to amuse themselves and their families while doing mundane housework. As industrialization began to sink its teeth into society, these traditions were being lost more and more every day. This was when scholars, such as Jacob and Wilhelm, began to save the stories from extinction. They would interview friends and family and collect whatever tales they could find, and sometimes added a little embellishment to them, though they adamantly denied that they did this, but I think it was quite obvious that they did this. Collecting these tales were not without trials and tribulations, though. As in 1830, King Ernest Augustus began to demand oaths of allegiance from the professors in Göttingen, which was a university city in which the brothers taught Germanic studies. And if anybody in Germany or German speaking happens to listen to this and I'm saying that word wrong, please let me know, because I'd like to say it right. I'd like to know. Along with 5 other professors, the brothers refused to pledge to the king, and the Göttingen 7 were forced out of the city. This left the brothers jobless and branded as political dissidents. As a result, they were forced to borrow money from friends so that they could continue their collection of stories. In 1812, the brothers published their collection as Nursery and Household Tales. This is what we all know and love as Grimm's Fairy Tales. As if it wasn't obvious from the story of Briar Rose that I shared a few weeks ago, these stories were not originally meant to be children's fairy tales. It was not uncommon for these stories to include sex, violence, incest, and there were many, many footnotes included, and there were no illustrations when it was first published. When Wilhelm died in 1859, the collection of fairy tales was in its 7th edition and had grown to include 211 stories with beautifully intricate illustrations. It has been claimed that their collection has only been outsold by Shakespeare and the Bible. So it's like top 3 books of all time. So, with that, I will get into my first story. The Robber Bridegroom. And did you read any of these?
No.
Okay. So in this story, there is a miller who has a daughter. He wants to get her married off to a man that has money and finds the first man that he perceives to be decent and basically just gave her to him. It was obvious that this girl did not like this man, and whenever she thought about him or saw him, she would feel a chill in her heart. One day, the man asked her why she had never come to visit him, and because they weren't married yet. And she made excuses like not knowing where his house was, it was a long way, yada, yada, yada. The man insisted that she would come visit with him the next Sunday, and that he had already invited his friends. He said that he would spread ashes on the path to his house so that she could find it easily. Sunday comes around, and she sets out despite feeling very uneasy about the whole thing. And as a precaution, she filled her pockets with peas and lentils and spread them on the sides of the path. There were ashes along the path, and she followed them all the way into the deepest, darkest part of the woods, where a small little house stood. Despite all of these internal red flags, our girl did not turn around and go home, but she walked right into that house. Luckily for her, no one else seemed to be there. Out of the silence, she heard a voice say, turn back, thou pretty bride. Within this house thou must not bide, for here do evil things betide." The girl glanced around the room and saw a bird cage that did have a bird in it. The bird said the same little tune, but this did not stop her from wandering around the house from room to room, and even venturing down to the basement, where she found a little old woman. She asks the woman if her bridegroom lives in the house, and the woman instantly feels sorry for her and says, "Oh, poor child, do you know what has happened to you? You are in a place of cutthroats. You thought you were a bride and soon to be married, but death will be your spouse. Look here, I have a great kettle of water to set on, and once they have you in their power, they will cut you into pieces without mercy, cook you, and eat you, for they are cannibals. Unless I have pity on you and save you, all is over with you." The woman did pity her, and she did save her. She told the girl to hide behind a great cask, which is basically just a big barrel. She told her to be still as a mouse and to not move or make any noises, or she would be caught for sure. She said that when all of the robbers were asleep, they both would make their escape. She said she had been looking for this opportunity for a very long time. It didn't take long at all for the gang to show up, and they had a young woman with them who did not seem to be there willingly. The men were already drunk and wouldn't listen to her pleas. They gave her 3 different glasses full of wine to drink, 1 white, 1 red, and 1 yellow. It was then that the men began to cut her into pieces. One of the robbers noticed that this young woman had a gold ring on her finger, and didn't really do much to try to remove it, so he just removed the finger with an axe instead, which landed right by our girl behind the barrel. He went to look for it, but the old woman insisted that the finger wasn't going anywhere and he could look for it tomorrow, but it was time to eat. So the men sat to eat, and the old woman dropped some sleeping potion into their wine. Before long, they were all laid out on the cellar floor, sleeping soundly. Hearing this, the soon-to-be bride came out of hiding, and even though she was scared to death, she stepped over the men, and with the old woman, they left the house of murderers behind. The 2 women found the path where the ashes had now been blown away, but the lentils and peas had sprouted, and with the moonlight as their guide, they walked all night until they reached the mill, where the girl told her father everything that had happened to her. The wedding day soon arrived, and friends and neighbors came to celebrate. The bridegroom even appeared. Once everyone was seated, the bride began to tell her bridegroom all about a dream she had the night before, and all of it was what happened at the house that night. Right down to the ring on the finger, and the finger being chopped off and landing in her lap. She then took out the finger and showed it to everyone. As you can imagine, as her dream progressed, the robber had grown deadly white. Even if he had tried to escape, he never would have, because all of the wedding attendees held him and delivered him to justice, which I think means they killed him. He and his whole gang were, for their evil deeds, condemned and executed.
Nice.
So they just out here eating girl stew. So, what are we doing to lighten the mood?
So I have adult contented nursery rhymes. So it's basically like nursery rhymes that we know but changed to be funny. And some of these, obviously not like the most vulgar ones, but like some of these I can remember my dad having his own little renditions that were very similar, and he'd say these things.
Yeah.
So this is like very reminiscent for me.
Nostalgic.
Right. Okay, so the first one. Mary had a little skirt with splits right up the sides, and every time that Mary walked, the boys would see her thighs. Mary had another skirt, 'twas split right up the front, but she didn't wear that one very often. Mary had a little lamb, her father shot it dead. Now it goes to school with her between two chunks of bread. Georgie, Porgy, pudding, and pie kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, he kissed them too because he was funny that way.
I like that one.
Right. This one cracks me up. Jack and Jill went up the hill to have some hanky-panky. Silly Jill forgot her pill, and now there's little Frankie.
I feel like I've heard that one.
Me too. Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to fetch her poor dog a bone. When she bent over, Rover took over and gave her a bone of his own.
Ew. Ew, foul.
Right. Little Miss Moffat sat on her toffet, eating her sausage and chips. Along came a spider and sat down beside her, and she bashed the poor blighter to bits.
Ew.
Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack jumped over the candlestick. Dear, oh dear, he should have jumped higher. Oh, good gracious, great balls of fire. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white and wispy. Then it caught foot and mouth disease, and now it's black and crispy. Mary had a little pig. She couldn't stop it grunting. She took it down to the garden path and kicked its effing... listen. These are written by English people. I'm busting it out.
Okay.
To make it make sense. Mary had a little pig. She couldn't stop it grunting. She took it down the garden path and kicked its fucking cunt in. Hey, diddle diddle, the cat did a piddle all over the bedside clock. A little dog laughed to see such fun, then died of electric shock.
Oh, no.
Roll. I've heard this one. We've sang this one. Roll, roll, roll your joint. Twist it at the end. Take a puff. That's enough. And pass it to a friend.
Yeah, definitely sang that. I didn't even smoke when I sang that.
Right. Mary had a little pig. She kept it fat and plastered. And when the price of pork went up, she shot that little bastard. Mary had a little lamb. The doctors were astounded, and everywhere she went, gynecologists surrounded. Mary had a little watch.
Toby.
Oh. Mary had a little watch. She swallowed it one day, and so she took some Epsom salts to pass the time away. But though she tried and tried and tried, she couldn't make time pass. So if you want to know the time, just look up Mary's ass. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was black as charcoal. Every time she stroked it, sparks flew out its asshole.
No.
And then the last one on this one. Sing a song of syphilis, a fanny full of crabs, 24 ulcers covered in scabs. When the scabs were opened, the cunt began to sing. I had to change the word because it's the P word.
Oh.
Isn't this a dirty place to put your penis in?
Ooh.
I'd rather say the C word than the P word, and I know that makes zero sense to a lot of people.
So that reminds me,
the P word just grosses me out.
It is kind of weird, but like, there's this actress. What is her name? Anyway, she's British.
What is she in?
She played the Queen. She was on The Crown. What is her name? Olivia Colman. So she was being interviewed, and like somebody asked her what her favorite swear word was, And she goes, "Can I say it on here?" And they were like, "What is it?" She said, "The one that starts with a C." And they were like, "Yeah." So she goes, "Cunt, that's my favorite." And then she said, "Did you know that Geoffrey Chaucer was the first one to write that?" So it's, what did she say? So she said, it's distinguished or something like that.
Oh my God. Well, what cracks me up is that's a word that here, it's like, that's a word.
Yeah.
You know, you don't.
It's never bothered me, though.
I mean, right. But like, it's not a word that
it's a really nasty word that you could call somebody. That's like almost the nastiest thing here that you could call somebody.
But over in like England,
they'll say it about anything.
There are toddlers saying it. Like, it's not a bad word for them. I kept turning like I was about to go close the door because my brain was like, "Oh, Daniel's back. Let me go close the door."
No,
but
it's just my old decrepit street cat.
It's just Toby.
All right.
If y'all hear crinkles over to the side, I have nerd clusters, and they're addicting.
They are.
You can have some if you want them.
I'm okay right now. I did buy donuts. I shouldn't have, but I did.
Girl, listen. So for dinner, I got over here like real early, and I'm like, we're going to get hungry later. And I always wish that I have a snack throughout the night. So we went to Walmart. I'm not hungry. I'm just snackish, and I'm just eating all the things. We straight up did like girl dinner thing tonight.
Yeah.
And we have a little bit of everything.
Like, we hit the candy aisle first.
And then she made some ranch dip. And then we got some loaded potato sticks. And then we got some like Jamaican beef patty things.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And then you got donuts, I got cannolis.
Yeah.
All the junk.
We got a whole bunch of
all the junk.
Crap. Well, the dip's not too bad. I made it with Greek yogurt, like plain Greek yogurt.
Oh, I forgot about our chocolate too.
Oh yeah, we got a hell of chocolate. All right. So my next tale is the juniper tree. I don't think you're ready.
I'm not.
I don't think you're ready. So this story takes place over 2,000 years ago.
Oh, so Jesus was there?
He must have been. So a rich man and his beautiful, pious, which means religious, wife loved each other very much. They wanted to have children, but they couldn't. The two would wish and pray day and night. In the courtyard in front of their house stood a juniper tree. One day during the winter, the woman was standing beneath it, peeling an apple. She cut her finger, and the blood fell into the snow.
Why was she outside in the snow?
I don't know. And she's like out there just
where'd she get
peeling
an apple?
I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't ask, but it circles back around.
Didn't ask. Didn't ask, buddy.
This surprised the woman, and she sighed heavily. She was really unhappy when she saw her blood in the snow.
Hold on. Oh, never mind. Sorry.
If only I had a child as red as blood and as white as snow. At these words, she felt contented and felt sure that she was going to be a mother. Then she went back in the house. Over the next 6 months, she was very happy and was full of joy, and then she grew ill during the 7th month after she picked up some juniper berries to eat.
Sorry.
So basically, she went in the house, got lucky, and then got knocked up. And so she's had just a blissful first 6 months of her pregnancy.
Must be nice.
So month 7, she's sick as shit.
That's backwards.
What?
Because you're sick as shit the first couple months.
She ate juniper berries, and that's what made her sick. When she was through her 8th month, she said to her husband, "If I die, then bury me beneath the juniper tree." She remained happy and content during her 9th month, and then she had a child as white as snow and as red as blood. When she saw her baby, she was so overcome with happiness that she died. Respecting her wishes,
I've never been so happy that I'm just gonna die.
Girl, that's how I got sucked into The Sims. The first video I saw, so Fiona from Shrek, okay, her daughter having a baby in the dining room, okay, The kids, her daughter's done locked everybody in the house. Can't nobody get out. Fiona starts laughing, dies right in the middle of the childbirth. And that's how I got sucked in. So, respecting his wife's wishes, her husband buried her beneath the juniper tree, and he began to cry. He took the time he needed to grieve, and then one day he married another woman. With this new wife, he had a daughter. When the woman looked at her daughter, she loved her so very much. But when looking at his son with his first wife, she felt as though he was an obstacle in her life. She wanted her daughter to have the entire inheritance one day and was always thinking of how she could do this. Her mind was filled with these thoughts by the evil one until she became very angry with the little boy.
Calm down. Hold on. So the child that the woman had was a boy.
The first woman was a boy.
Okay.
Yes. And then the second wife had a daughter.
Because my brain assumed that it was a female because this is giving Snow White.
Yeah. But no, it was a little boy.
Got you. Continue. Sorry.
So the stepmother became very angry with the little boy because of these thoughts that were created in her head by the evil one. She would push him and slap him until he was afraid of her. When he was home from school, there was no peace for him. One day, the woman was upstairs and her daughter followed her and said, "Mother, give me an apple." She said that she would and got a beautiful apple out of the chest, which had a large, heavy lid with a large, sharp iron lock. The little girl asked if her brother could have one too, and for whatever reason, this made the woman very angry, but she said that he could whenever he got home from school. When she looked out the window and saw the little boy coming home, she was seemingly taken over by the evil one, and she snatched the apple from her daughter and said that she couldn't have one until her brother had one. She then threw the apple back into the chest, and when he came in the door, the evil one made her say to him, "My son, do you want an apple?" But she was looking at him real sideways, and he knew it. "Mother, how angry you look. Yes, give me an apple." She said, "Come with me," and opened the lid of the chest for him and told him to get one for himself. While he was leaning over into the chest, the evil one made her slam the lid down, and the boy's head flew right off and fell among the red apples. It gets worse. Now fearful over what she had done, the woman scrambled to find a solution and went to get a white scarf from her bedroom. She set the head back on its neck and tied the scarf around it so that nothing was seen, and then sat him in a chair with an apple in his hand. The daughter, who we are just now finding out is named Marlene, came to her mother saying that her brother was sitting by the door and was totally white with an apple in his hand. She said that she asked him for the apple, but he didn't answer. So the mother told her she told her mother that she was scared, but her mother told her that if she goes and asks him again and he doesn't answer, that she could box his ears. So little Marlene went and asked her brother again for the apple, but he was silent, and so she gave him a hit right to one of his ears, and his head fell off.
That's so messed up.
This was obviously scary for a small child, and she began to scream and cry that she had knocked off her brother's head. The mother then took the little boy, chopped him up, and cooked him in a stew in the pot that she had been simmering. Marlene continued to cry, and while she was standing near the pot, her tears fell into it. Then the father came home. He sat at the table and asked where his son was, and the mother served him with a very large dish of stew, while Marlene continued to cry and cry. The father again asked where his son was. The mother said that he had gone across country to visit with his mother's great uncle, and that he would be staying for a while. The father asked what the hell was going on, or what the hell...
Yeah.
what the hell he was doing there, and that he didn't even say goodbye to him. The mother responded that he wanted to go and asked her if he could go stay for 6 weeks, and she said that he would be taken care of. The man was unhappy with this and said that his son should have said goodbye to him, and then he began to eat. He asked Marlene why she was crying and said that her brother would be back. He told his wife that the food was delicious and asked for more. The more he ate, the more he wanted, and asked for even more. He said that the mother and daughter were to have none of the stew and that it was all his.
Ugh.
He ate and threw the bones under the table until he was finished with the entire pot. Marlene went to her bedroom for her best scarf and gathered all of her brother's bones together and tied them up in the scarf and carried them outside, crying tears of blood. She laid the bones on the green grass beneath the juniper tree. After leaving them there, she suddenly felt much better and didn't shed another tear. Then the juniper tree began to move. The branches parted and moved together as if it was clapping its hands. A mist rose from the tree, and the center of it burned like a fire. A singing bird flew out of the flames and flew so high into the air that it couldn't be seen. And then the juniper tree was just as it was, and the scarf of bones was gone. Marlene was happy and content that her brother was still alive, and she went back into the house, sat at the table, and ate her dinner. The bird flew away and landed on the goldsmith's house and sang, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister Marlene gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken scarf, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I." The goldsmith was sitting in his workshop when he heard the bird's little song, and he thought it was very beautiful. He stood up, but as he crossed the threshold, he lost one of his slippers. However, he went right up the middle of the street with only one slipper and one sock on. He had his leather apron on, and in one hand he had a golden chain, and in the other his tongs. The sun was shining brightly on the street. He asked the bird to sing the song again because it was so beautiful, and the bird told him that he doesn't sing for free and asked for the gold chain, which the goldsmith gave him. The bird sang the same song again and then flew to the shoemaker, where he sung the song once more. The shoemaker ran outside upon hearing the song and told the bird how beautifully it could sing. He told his wife to come outside and look at the bird, and then he called his daughter and her children and the journeyman and the apprentice and the maid until they were all in the street looking at the bird with its red and green feathers and its neck of pure gold. The shoemaker asked the bird to sing the song again, and the bird asked for a pair of red shoes, and so the shoemaker asked his wife to bring them out. The bird came and scooped them up and sang the song once more. When he finished, he flew away, and he flew far away to the mill, and in the mill were 20 millers' apprentices cutting and chiseling at stone. The bird sat on a tree at the front of the mill and sang the first line of the song, which caused one of the men to stop working. It sang the next line, and 2 more men stopped working, then 4, and as the bird continued the song, more of the men stopped working. When the last man heard the song, he asked the bird to sing it again. The bird, knowing his worth, asked for a millstone. All 20 men agreed to give him a millstone, and they all hoisted it up, and the bird came down and stuck his neck through the hole of the stone, like a collar, and flew to the tree where it sang once more. When he finished, he spread his wings, and in his right claw was the golden chain, and in his left were the shoes, and around his neck was the millstone. He flew all the way back to his father's house. The father, mother, and Marlene were sitting at the table. The father announced how happy and content he was. The mother said she wasn't and felt uneasy, as if there was a storm a-brewing. Marlene just sat and cried and cried and cried. Then the bird flew up and sat on the roof, and the father said, "Oh, I feel so truly happy, and the sun is shining so beautifully outside. I feel as if I were about to see some old acquaintance again." The mother said that she felt as though her teeth were chattering and like she had a fire in her veins. Marlene, if you can imagine, was still just crying and soaked through a handkerchief. The bird rested itself on the juniper tree and began to sing the song once more. The mother stopped to listen, but she stopped listening and closed her eyes. She wanted to see and hear nothing, but all she could hear was roaring like the fiercest storm, and her eyes were burning. The bird continued to sing. The father said that the bird was so beautiful and said he was going to see it up close as Marlene continued to sob. The mother asked him not to go. She felt as though the house were shaking and on fire, but he went anyway. The bird continued to sing as the man went to look at him. Then the bird dropped the gold chain, and it fell right around the man's neck and fit him perfectly. Then the man went inside to show what the beautiful bird had given him. The woman was terrified and fell to the floor, and her hat fell off of her head. She wished so much that she could not hear the song as the bird started the song over again. I guess Marlene had quit crying long enough to say that she wanted to see if the bird had a gift for her, and the bird did. It was the red shoes. Marlene was now contented and happy again, and put on her shoes and danced into the house, where she exclaimed how happy she was that the bird gave her the beautiful red shoes. The mother, she jumped up and stated that she felt as though the world were coming to an end, and that she too will go out to see if it will make her feel better. As she walked out the door, the bird threw the millstone on her head and crushed her to death.
Yes!
The father and Marlene heard the commotion, went outside to see smoke and flames rising from the place, and when it was over, the little brother was standing there. He took them both by the hand, and they were all very happy as they went back into the house and sat at the table and ate. The end.
That was a lot.
It was a lot. Because I had picked a list of 6 stories, and I was so ambitious. And I narrowed it down to these 3 that I'm doing. And I was like, this one has to stay. This one has to stay in.
Yeah. All right. So for my second batch, 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor, and the doctor said, Mrs. Wilson, if you continue to have sex with animals, I'll have to report you.
That's messed up.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, so Jill started dating a guy named Paul, who she met in a bar. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider, who sat down beside her and said, "What the fuck is that nasty shit you're eating?" Here we go around the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush. We wish Susan Mulberry would wax that shit. Oh, is that really all of it on this one? That is. That was all I had for this link.
All right. Well.
There was more, but I have to create an account to read them more.
So. Ain't nobody trying to do that.
That's why we get emails from the New York Times every day.
And Reddit. And I don't know. I'm sure there's something else. So my last one is a story that you all think you know and love. Cinderella. There was a rich man whose wife was very sick, and when she felt she was nearing the end, she asked for her daughter and said, "Dear child, remain pious and good, and then our dear God will always protect you, and I will look down on you from heaven and be near you." Then she died, as soon as that sentence came out of her mouth. The girl went to visit her mother's grave every day and wept, but she remained pious and good. Then winter came and covered everything in snow. And then when spring arrived, this was when the man took another wife. This woman brought 2 daughters with her. They were allegedly beautiful with fair faces, but had darkness in their hearts. This was when things got bad for Cinderella. At this time, unnamed girl. They would say awful things about her not being allowed to eat with them, and that she must be the kitchen maid if she wanted to eat. She was only allowed to wear a gray smock, and all of her beautiful clothes were taken away. They also gave her some wooden shoes that I can only imagine were awful for her back. From morning until night, the girl had to get up and do the chores like getting water, making fires, cooking, cleaning, laundry, etc., etc. The sisters were extra mean to her and would scatter peas and lentils in the ashes of the fire for her to have to clean up. She did not have a bed and would have to sleep by the hearth in the ashes, and this made her always look like she was dirty, so they called her Cinderella. One day, her father was going to the fair and asked his stepdaughters what they wanted him to bring back for them. And it was all pompous stuff like clothes, jewels, etc. When he asked Cinderella what she wanted, she asked that he break off the first twig that brushes against his hat on the way home. All right. The father bought the nice things for his stepdaughters on his way home. He went through a thicket, and a hazel twig brushed him and knocked his hat right off, and so he broke off the twig and took it home to Cinderella. She thanked him and then went to her mother's grave and planted the branch there and wept so much that her tears fell upon it and watered it. This made the tree grow and become a beautiful tree. She would go there 3 times a day to this tree and weep and pray underneath it. Every time there was a white bird, and whenever she expressed a wish, the bird would throw down to her what she had wished for. It just so happened that the king proclaimed that there would be a festival lasting 3 days, and all the beautiful young women were invited so that he could marry off his son, the prince. Naturally, when the 2 stepsisters heard this, they were in very high spirits. They demanded that Cinderella comb their hair and brush their shoes and fasten their buckles. Cinderella begged her stepmother to go, but she said no because she was dirty and dusty. But that didn't stop Cinderella from continuing to ask, and so the stepmother finally said that she had scattered a bowl of lentils into the ashes, and that if she could pick them all up in 2 hours, she could go with them. So Cinderella went out the back door to the garden and asked the pigeons, turtle doves, and all the birds beneath the sky to come help her. She said, "The good ones go into the pot, the bad ones go into your crop." All the birds swarmed into the kitchen and picked up all of the lentils. It only took 1 hour to finish, and then they all flew right back out. The girl took the bowl to her stepmother and was so happy to think she was going to be allowed to go to the festival. But that hateful old hag told her no because she didn't have clothes and didn't know how to dance, and that she would only be made fun of. But she told her that if she picked up 2 bowls of lentils in 1 hour, that she could go. So Cinderella did the whole bird thing again, and once again brought the bowl back to the stepmother, only to be told no once more. Then the stepmother ushered her 2 daughters out of the house to head to the festival. When Cinderella was all alone, she went to her mother's grave and sat beneath the hazel tree and cried out, "Shake and quiver, little tree, throw gold and silver down to me." Then the bird threw a gold and silver dress down to her, and slippers that were embroidered with silk and silver. She got dressed and headed to the festival. Her stepmother and stepsisters did not recognize her and thought she was a foreign princess in her golden dress. They thought Cinderella was at home all dirty and looking for lentils. The prince approached her and took her to dance. He danced with no one but her and wouldn't let go of her hand. When anyone else would approach, he would say that she was his dance partner. She danced until evening and then wanted to go home, but the prince said that he would escort her because he wanted to see to whom she belonged. But she eluded him and jumped into the pigeon coop. He waited until her father came home and told him that the unknown girl had jumped into the pigeon coop. So, the man wondered if it could have been Cinderella. He had an axe brought to him and broke apart the pigeon coop, but no one was inside. When they finally got home, Cinderella was asleep in the ashes of the hearth in her dirty clothes with a dim little oil lamp burning inside the fireplace. She had quickly jumped out of the pigeon coop and run to the hazel tree where she took off her dress, laid it on the grave where the birds came to take it away. She redressed in her smock and returned to the ashes. The next day, when the festival began again and her family had gone, she went to the hazel tree and again asked for the tree to throw her gold and silver. The bird threw down an even more magnificent dress than the day before, and when she appeared at the festival in this dress, everyone was astonished by her beauty. The prince had waited for her, and when she arrived, he took her by the hand and danced with only her, saying, "She is my dance partner," when others approached. Again, When she was ready to leave, the prince insisted on escorting her home to see where she came from. But she again eluded him, and this time hid in the garden behind the house where a beautiful tall tree stood. The prince had no idea where she had gone, and once again waited until her father came home. The prince told him that the girl eluded him, and he thought she climbed the pear tree. The father again wondered if it was Cinderella, but she was found laying in the ashes at the hearth once more. On the third day of the festival, once her family had left, she again went to her mother's grave and asked the tree for gold and silver. This dress was even more beautiful than the first two, and when she arrived, it was the same. People stunned, Prince only dancing with her, him wanting to escort her home, but her running away. But this time, the prince had set a trap for her. The prince had the stairs smeared with pitch, is what the story said, which I believe this is like some sort of like sticky substance, like resin. When Cinderella ran down the stairs, her left slipper stuck in the pitch. The prince then picked it up. It was small and dainty and made of pure gold. The next morning, the prince went to Cinderella's home and said to her father, "No one shall be my wife except for the one whose foot fits this golden shoe." The two sisters were overjoyed to hear this because they thought they had small, pretty feet. The older sister took the shoe into her bedroom to try on, but when it did not fit, her mother gave her a knife and told her to cut off her toe, and said that when she was queen, she would no longer have to go on foot. And so she did. She then forced her foot into the shoe, and despite being in pain, she went out to the prince, who then took her onto his horse to be his bride and rode away with her. But once they passed the grave, there were two pigeons on the hazel tree that cried out, rook-de-goo, there's blood in the shoe. The shoe is too tight, this bride is not right." He looked down at her foot and saw the blood pouring from it, and so he turned back to the house, dropped her off, saying that she wasn't the right one, and asked for the other sister to try on the shoe. So she went into her bedroom and was able to get her toes in, but her heel was too large. So her mother gave her a knife and told her to cut off a piece of her heel. When she is queen, she won't have to worry about things like walking. So the girl did. She forced her foot into the shoe, swallowed the pain, and went out to the prince, who took her on his horse and rode away. Once again, when they passed the hazel tree with the grave beneath, the pigeons sang their little tune. Rook-de-goo, there's blood in the shoe. The shoe is too tight, this bride is not right. You would think he would have learned his lesson the first time and double-checked before heading out, but he didn't. So he looked down at her foot, this girl's foot, and saw the blood pouring from the shoe. So he took her back home and proclaimed that she wasn't the right one either, and asked if there was another daughter. The man said there was no other daughter, and that he only had deformed little Cinderella from his first marriage, but she could not possibly be his bride. Nevertheless, the prince requested that Cinderella be brought to him. After she had washed her face and hands, she went and bowed down before the prince, who handed her the little golden shoe, which I'm assuming is absolutely disgusting at this point.
Right.
It fit her perfectly. He stood up and looked in her face and recognized the beautiful girl he had been dancing with for 3 days and said that she was his true bride. The stepmother and the two dumbasses who cut off parts of their feet were horrified and turned pale with anger, but the prince took Cinderella and rode away with her. And as they passed the hazel tree, the two white pigeons cried out, Rook-de-goo, no blood's in the shoe. The shoe's not too tight, this bride is right. After this, they flew down and sat on Cinderella's shoulders, and there they remained. Wanting to gain favor with Cinderella, the two sisters attended the wedding. When the bridal couple walked into the church, the older sister walked on their right side, and the younger on their left side, and the pigeons plucked out one eye from each of them. Afterwards, as they came out of the church, the older one was on the left side and the younger on the right side, and then the pigeons pecked out the other eye from each of them. And thus, for their wickedness and falsehood, they were punished with blindness as long as they lived.
I love a good ending. Okay, so then the last section that I have, I like how it's all Mary had a little lamb.
Yeah,
Like
it's so
all-
easy though.
Mary had a little lamb. It had a touch of colic. She gave it brandy every day, and now it's an alcoholic. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white and wispy. Oh, I already read that one. Hold on. Mary had a little lamb. It ran into a pylon. 10,000 volts went up its ass and turned its wool to nylon. Mary had a little lamb. It leapt around in hops. It frolicked on the road one day and finished up as chops. Jack and Jill went up a hill to fetch a pail of water. God knows what they did up there. They came back with a daughter. Jack and Jill went up the hill and planned to do some kissing. Jack made a pass and grabbed her ass. Now 2 of his teeth are missing. Jack and Jill went up the hill to smoke a little leaf. Jack got high, opened his fly, and Jill said, "Where's the beef?" Jack and Jill went up the hill for just an itty bitty. Jill's now 2 months overdue, and Jack has left the city.
No.
Oh. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, her clothes all tattered and torn. It wasn't the spider that crept up beside her, but little boy Blue in his horn.
No.
The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts, all on a summer's day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole those tarts and ate them all away. The Queen of Hearts woke up with a start and chased the Knave at bay. But the Knave of Hearts gave out a fart and killed the Queen right away.
That reminds me, somebody crop dusted Walmart.
Oh my God, it was so bad. It lasted because we were walking
It was a while.
at the end of all the aisles or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a good 3 to 4 aisles that this covered. It was so bad. That person was on metformin for sure.
They were on something.
This one, little boy Blue. Hey, he needed the money too.
Ew.
Little birdie flying high dropped a message from the sky. "Oh," said the farmer, wiping his eye, "isn't it lucky cows don't fly?" Hickory dickory dock. 3 mice ran up the clock. The clock struck 1 and the other 2 ran away with minor injuries. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Push your teacher overboard and then you'll hear her scream. I feel like we sang that.
I feel like that was definitely something we sang on the playground in elementary school. I'm sure our teachers appreciated it.
This one. I love drugs. Drugs love me. Cocaine, crack, and ecstasy. With a sniff sniff here and a sniff sniff there. Now I'm in intensive care.
I feel like I've heard that one too.
I love you. You love me. Homosexuality. Everyone thinks we're just good friends. They don't know we're lesbians.
Oh.
Here comes the bride, 60 inches wide. Look at her how she wobbles up the center aisle. Here comes the groom, biting his nails in gloom. He's looking as thin as a rolling pin, and never again will he smile. Oh, no. There was a little girl who had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very good. But when she was bad, she got a fur coat, jewels, a waterfront condo, and a sports car. Joy, hold on. This one we definitely sang, and it's in The Simpsons. Joy to the world, the teacher's dead. We barbecued her head. What happened to her body? We flushed it down the potty, and around it goes, and around it goes, and around it goes.
Is that from The Simpsons?
It literally says in this. This one's my all-time favorite. Nelson sings it to Lisa in The Simpsons.
Nice. That's amazing. I never saw The Simpsons when I was a kid, but I knew that song.
Right. Well, I'm sure we all sang it at school. That was the last one on this one.
Nice. Well, I'll dive into my nonprofit of the week, which I chose the German American Cultural Foundation, which is based in Atlanta, Georgia, and was established in 2008. And throughout the years, the GAC Foundation has increased the number of members to the board of directors and gained corporate sponsorships. They say, we have a clear vision and take concrete actions through a simple, proactive approach. The German American Cultural Foundation fosters the mutual understanding between people that have a lot in common, but are divided by different languages and the Atlantic. Our focus is on promoting the German language, bringing the best of German culture to the southeastern United States, and educating the next generation of American business leaders on the rewards of being able to respond to different corporate cultures and lifestyles. And if this is something that piques your interest, there is a link to donate directly to that organization.
All right.
I can't wait to do another one of these episodes. I really like this.
Yeah, I'm going to dig into it next time. I know I say it every time, but I'm really going to get my shit together.
Yeah, I hope to as well, because this time I was quite literally writing an episode between recording episodes because I'm so behind. But to be fair, like normally I have a lot of time at work to write the episodes because I've got stuff going and they usually take a while or whatever, or I don't have a lot going on. But these past 2 weeks, I have had nothing but work. And what the big order that I'm currently working on, it's like 248 polos for a band, like a school band, a high school band.
Oh.
And then they only take 17 minutes. So that's not a long time to get anything done.
Yeah.
And I've got those going on 3 of our machines. And then on our 4th machine, I'm doing smaller orders, like hats, if it's like a one-off, because I can take the hat thing off.
Yeah.
And set it up for like a regular embroidery hoop. So I've been doing stuff with that. And it's like, it's constant because so the stabilizer, I've got to trim around the design on the inside of the shirt, clip any like thread that is poking out or whatever. I don't have to fold the shirts, but I like to fold the shirts and then keep, it helps me count them.
Right.
I put them in stacks of 10. So hopefully I finished the 62 larges on Friday. 50, let's see, last week I did 50 smalls, 56 mediums, 62 larges, and I started on the extra larges, and there's 50 of those. And then 2X, 3X, 4X, there's 10 of each. So I'm close. Hopefully by Tuesday afternoon I'll be done, and they can come get them Wednesday and bring us the payment. Also this week we had a return check. Have I told you about that?
Yes.
I didn't tell you the worst part.
Okay.
So I told you this lady bought these t-shirts. She needed them in an emergency. She was going out of town, needed them for that. Her guy had COVID. Writes us a check for $1,005. So it's a felony at that point. And then we deposit the check, comes back. It's a frozen account. So that means chances are it's the IRS collecting a debt from her.
Yeah.
So the account's real. Her LLC is not. And then Daniel's been talking with her, which I told him, don't show all your cards, leave her alone. And like somebody else had a good point. Like if he continues to like message her, like she could be like, well, he harassed me.
Yeah.
So I said, leave it alone. Take everything you have to the officer you filed the report with. Cause she's like, oh, I swear I'll pay it and da 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 da. And we're like, she's not going to pay it. So we found out, what I haven't told you is we found out yesterday that, so she got the shirts for a big church event in Alabama. And what we were concerned about is that this church paid her for these shirts, and then she took their money and got them for free.
Yeah.
So, he called the church yesterday and asked, did this girl bring you shirts for your event? And they were like, oh yeah. And he said, did you pay her for them? And they said, no, it was so nice. She gave them to I don't know if it was the MC or the DJ, whatever term they used, but she walked up to him and, said she was donating them and doing all of this, and he made a big deal about it and sang her praises during the event because she was so nice for donating them. Okay. So Daniel informs her that she stole those shirts and wrote a bad check. So the lady he talked to was like, oh no, is there anything, do we need to tell the DJ, is there anything we need to do? And he was like, nope, I just need to know if you paid her for them. And that is it. He was like, you don't have a dog in this fight. He was like, if I would have known what they were for, he was like, I probably would have donated them myself or donated like a portion of the amount of each shirt.
Right.
As a donation. And he was like, all she would have had to do was ask. But she didn't do that. And she racked up $1,000 bill with us and then took off and gave us a bad check. I thought the whole thing was suspicious anyway. Normally in those cases we get a deposit, but she kind of hem-hawed around and gave excuses as to why she couldn't come pay a deposit. And then now she's telling him that, if I have to pay it, I get paid on such and such day, and if I have to pay it myself, I will. She ain't making $1,000 for a paycheck at Taco Bell. No. Because he knows where she works. He knows what cases she has. She's done this before. He knows what cases are open. He knows where she lives. He knows who her parents are. He knows how many kids she has.
Oh my gosh.
He knows everything about this woman. Because I was like, she messed with the wrong one. Because I wouldn't know where to find all this information. Like, I would be able to find like part of it, but I wouldn't know where to look. Like, he knows both of her parents' Facebook pages. Her dad had run for mayor in this particular town they live in. It's a whole thing.
That's a little stalkerish, Daniel.
Yeah, but
I mean, I get it.
In this instance, it's beneficial.
Right.
And then he wants to be surprised when I tell him, hey, you're kind of creepy.
Right. Red flags, sir.
But yeah, so that's what we've been dealing with. And it cracks me up, though, because, like, every customer that has come into our shop, he has told this story to. And, like, our friends, James and Rachel were at the shop Thursday. We were all going to weight loss class together. And we're sitting there, and he's over there telling another customer about it. And we're over there giggling. I was like, he's told every person that's coming to this shop. I was like, I don't know why he insists on telling everybody about our finances.
Right.
But here I am on a public platform telling about our finances. But I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to say where she lives or anything like that. But yeah, so that's been fun.
Lord, some people's children.
And her parents look super nice. And I'm like, I bet they're embarrassed by her. So, but yeah, and she made claims that she doesn't have anything to do with them, even though her address is their house.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Lord. Well, guys, thanks for coming to another week. Don't forget about the event that I told you guys about on the last episode.
May 11th.
May 11th at Heart of the Hollow.
Holla.
Yeah.
Holler.
In Ashland City. If you're local, come hang out with us.
Come hang out with us and maybe get a little freebie.
Make it worth our while.
Yeah.
We're real excited to meet everybody. As you're listening to this, stop everything that you're doing. If you're driving, pull over and make sure that you're casting your social circle and your social media circle. My bad. Make sure that you're casting your social media circle and following us on the Facebook.
Instagram.
TikTok.
X.
Send us an email at wanderersofweird@gmail.com. Yes, ma'am.
You can send your complaints there too if you want. It's our complaint department. We'll have them respond accordingly.
Is that me?
I don't know.
Am I the complaint department?
I don't know why. They're making that a thing now, but it's a thing.
Much like your HR department at work?
Yeah, it's a bird.
Like a literal
bird. Somebody came in that hadn't been in the shop for like they haven't been in since I've worked there, and I started there in 2020. And she said, I can't believe that bird's still alive. And I said, he's ancient. I said, he's of legal drinking age. She said, I knew he was old.
So keep that in mind if you're thinking about adopting a bird. They live forever.
Well, like there's some that are they call them willed pets, like an African gray or like the big colorful parrots, because they live like 80 years.
Keep that in mind, folks. Be responsible about adopting pets. Yeah. You know, I have zero intentions of ever like getting rid of the dogs that we have, but like realization hit me not too long ago before we got Ellie that we adopted Loki just over a year ago. I hopefully will have this dog for minimum 10 years. The dachshund that we had prior to him was, I think, 15. And I feel like had the accident that happened not happened, we would have had quite a bit more time with him.
Yeah, I was going to say, he might even still be aggravating the hell out of everybody.
If he were here, then we wouldn't have Loki and Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie does not live up to her name. Ellie is not a sweet dog. Only to TJ is she sweet.
I named Willow after that, like, witchy vibe Taylor Swift song, because I was like, ooh, she's kind of wispy like a willow. She was so sweet the first night she was here. Next day, different cat. Absolutely wild.
I'm telling you.
Biting everybody. I think Willow suits her. I don't know what it is. She looks like a willow.
We literally, like, we had zero intentions of getting another dog. But I am the world's worst about getting on Craigslist or on the National Humane Association's page just to see what's out there. Yeah. I had zero intentions. And we had gone to Chick-fil-A for lunch, and I just so happened to have been on the National Humane Association's website, and I saw her in, the list of dogs that could be adopted, and I showed TJ, and he was like, we don't need another dog. And so
the lie detector test determined that
was a lie. What's funny though is that's how we ended up with Loki, is I just kept showing him pictures of puppies, but like my intent was to break him down.
Yeah.
I had zero intent of that being the case this time. But I showed him the picture as we were driving to Chick-fil-A. We sat at Chick-fil-A. He brought the puppy up again. He's like, we don't need a dog. So then finally we leave, and
he's just trying to convince himself at this point.
Well, we leave, and instead of going back roads like we would normally go home, he goes back out the main road.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he about to go. So then we pass the road, and I'm like, okay, we're not going. He's like, I have been thinking about, for the past couple of months, I've been thinking about, I want a pit bull. And I've kind of been looking on like Facebook and Craigslist to see if, there were any good ones out there. But like, I don't know, if we're traveling and stuff, like, we'll have 2 dogs. What are we going to do with them? And I'm like, your niece dog, she dog sits. She's always got a house full of dogs. She's watched Loki. Why couldn't we just?
Right.
And he was like, yeah, you're right. He popped a U-turn. An hour later, we have a dog.
Look at that. I like that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So then we go, he wants to name all of the dogs that we get like a Disney theme. So, Loki, Marvel is now part of the Disney universe.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think
apparently Doctor Who is too now.
Really?
Yeah.
You said Doctor Who, and my brain immediately went Doctor Strange, and I had to correct that. So we're trying to figure out what to name her, and he said Loki's sister in the Marvel movies is Hela.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, well, we could name her Hela. And I'm like, I don't think that, like, the kids can go to school saying that.
Disney does not own Doctor Who, but they have a deal between them and the BBC.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be on Disney Plus.
Got you. But yeah, he wanted to name her Hela at first. And I was like, I don't think that the kids need to be going to school telling everybody they have a dog named Hela now.
Yeah.
So we, like, fought over, not fought, but, like, we talked about it. And it took us, like, all afternoon to establish to name her Ellie after the lady, the wife in Up.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, that's my favorite Disney movie, and he liked that name. I wanted, because she's white with one brown spot on her tail, and then
freckle butt,
and then brown dots on her ears. I wanted to name her Betty. I was going to call her Betty White or Petty Betty. Petty Betty would have fit her so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's not an Ellie. She's so mean. She's so mean. Not to TJ though. He gets home, she's a perfect angel. He leaves, instant chaos. He's been gone since Wednesday for work. Oh, it's been chaos. I don't know how I've gotten as much work done as I have, to be honest, this week, because she's been all over the place. All right. Anyway, now that I'm done talking about Ellie, we did our socials.
Okay, bye.
Bye.